Good morning, everyone. My name is James Homana. I'm the Special Assistant for the Water Supply Division here at TCEQ. Thanks for joining us for the April 14th or second quarter Drinking Water Advisory Work Group. We'll go ahead and get rolling here pretty quick. We got a packed agenda. The agenda is in the chat or on our webpage if you haven't seen it yet. Quick reminders for those of you in office, if you're also attending virtually, please make sure to mute your mics and speakers. For those attending virtually, please go ahead. If you have any questions, put them in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll definitely get to those as soon as possible. Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and get rolling here. First up on the agenda, we have Scott joining us from the Texas Water Development Board to provide us a funding update.
Yes, good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about Water Development Board funding. I have a few bullet points on a slide, a PowerPoint slide. I'm going to bring that up.
While you're doing that, Scott, for those attending virtually, can you hear us? Can we do a quick show of hands? Okay, thank you.
Great.
If you can't hear us, just you may need to just leave the meeting and rejoin. Take it away, Scott.
All right, thank you. Thank you. I have my slides up. So just a quick update of what's going on recently at the Water Development Board. There's a lot of exciting things. Proposition 4, the new grant opportunity, and then just the SRF program that just received applications in March. The new funding, just wanted to highlight this one because it's made so much media attention, since last summer. We have about 15 counties under contract for this flood warning system. We have more in the queue, so to speak, to complete those contracts. This program is a one-time opportunity for grant warning sirens for those 30 counties in the governor's disaster declaration, mainly for the hill country flooding. So just wanted to give an update on that. They are working furiously and as quickly as possible to get these warning systems installed before the summer season. House Bill 500, the Water Supply and Infrastructure Grant, is keeping everyone at TWDB very busy. This is a one-time grant opportunity for drinking water systems. I'm sure most of you have seen some news articles or maybe even read our website about it. It's a 100% grant for a limited number of drinking water systems. And once these grant dollars are allocated, this grant will be retired. We won't have this funding opportunity in the future. Who's eligible? Political subdivisions of the state, so it's going to be cities, counties, districts. Water supply corporations are not eligible, or neither are private or investor owned. Eligible projects, water loss, TCEQ violations, and then provide additional water supply. Just a few details on that. Please pay close attention and review the regulatory violations. This was copied out of some of the legislation, but this is the first time I've presented this particular slide. And so it looks like the violations are going to be the letters, enforcement actions, boil water notice, agreed orders, and then the monitoring reporting. I'm giving the example of a consumer confidence report as a reporting violation. Something along those lines would not apply for this grant opportunity, but the other violations would, of course. Some requirements has to be consistent with the 27 state water plan. Regional water plans were approved. The 16 regional planning groups were approved back in January. Water Development Board will publish the state water plan later this year. But right now we have a link to the regional plans, so they have to be consistent with the regional plan, the project does. So what's a simple definition of what is consistent and what is not consistent? If a community has a groundwater project, has a new water source for water supply, raw water supply. And then on the grant application, they say they're going to use surface water instead of groundwater for the same project. the same project as scope, dollar capacity amount. Well, that would be an inconsistency on a very simple definition. You have to have the current financial audit up to date, one applicant per community. Funding breakdown, if you've seen some of this information, this is the final approval of how the project funding will be broken down into categories by population types. And you can see that, large communities over 150,000 or more can request construction dollars only, where smaller communities can request funds for planning, acquisition, design, and even construction too. Water canal project lining, either converting earthen canals for concrete lining or pipeline. There's a joint venture or joint component with partnering with the NAD Bank for these type of projects. The big one is that applications are open now. The solicitation period is open now, started April 1, due date July 30th. The final bullet point is something to be aware of for the communities that are applying for this, and especially their consultant engineers and contractors. This is an accelerated program. Final construction closeout documents need to be submitted to Water Development Board in February of 31. And so probably construction contracts need to be wrapped up in the fall of 2030. You have to be up to date on water use, water loss audit, and conservation reporting. As you drinking water systems know, that these are required reports from drinking water utilities across the state. Even if they don't use Water Development Board funding, they're still required by state law to report this information, water use surveys, loss, and conservation. So that's one critical thing for this grant application. The applicant must have the current financial audit and then up to date on these self-reports for loss, use, and conservation. That's not true on some of our existing programs. An applicant can apply and then work on these reports in parallel. The state revolving fund programs is a good example of that. But for this one-time grant opportunity, because it's on this accelerated timeline, these reports must be up to date and included with the application. Still getting a lot of questions on House Joint Resolution 7 and Prop 4. Just remind you that more money is coming. We're still getting a lot of questions, media requests, those type of things. But the main key point to know about this Proposition 4 new money, fall of 29 is when it's scheduled to be available to the local communities, cities, districts, water supply corporations, etc. And of course, the money will flow into existing programs, goes to the water fund first, and then through the water fund, the cash or money will flow into existing programs. Those existing programs are already well-defined, documented, timeline schedules, all the policy details are already incorporated into those existing programs. So these are the existing programs too. You've got the bucket view and then the list view with links. Just a couple of highlights on what's happening lately since we last met. SWIFT applications were due. That was, we received over 27 applications. Remember, this particular program is linked to water supply planning. Communities have to have a recommended water management strategy in the regional plans and then in the state water plan. And I mentioned the state water plan will be published later this summer, early fall. Flood Infrastructure Fund, this is new funding coming up. Most likely we're going to have a solicitation period, possibly late 26, early 27 is more likely, but we'll have an open solicitation period for flood funding applications. And again, this particular program is linked directly to flood planning. Communities have to participate in the flood planning process, and then they have access to this Flood Infrastructure Fund. So that's coming up maybe later this year. Texas Water Development Fund, this is our oldest, most flexible fund. Applications are due September 30th, 2026. This is a 100% loan program. But within this particular fund, you can do drinking water, wastewater, and flood mitigation work, all within this one funding umbrella. So keep that in mind. It's available both for political subdivisions and nonprofit water supply corporations. Of course, our most popular programs, most of you are very familiar with these, the Clean Water and Drinking Water State Revolving Funds. Project information forms were due in early March. Just wanted to give you some numbers, preliminary numbers. Over 226 applications for this Clean Water State Revolving Fund. This is the base activities fund. And then on the drinking water side, about 428 applications were received. So currently, Water Development Board is processing all those applications, starting the review of those, along with our drinking water colleagues at TCEQ on the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund program, scoring, reviewing, ranking those projects that will be produced in the intended use plan, hopefully later this summer, 1st of September, October for sure. One final opportunity for funding is the lead service line replacement program. This will be the final year of this temporary program. These were funds from the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act from a few years ago. This is the final cycle for this year. We don't have the exact solicitation date period pinned down yet, but it looks like it's going to be maybe early summer for project information forms to be received for this lead service line replacement program. And currently, we're really looking still at construction projects, replacing that line work, that service line material, and not really doing the inventory reporting since that's pretty well wrapped up. Water Utilities Technical Assistance Program. We've made a change to this particular program. Applicants can apply anytime. We'll probably have 2 approvals each year, but this is a technical assistance program where we partner with professional services companies, consulting engineers. They can come and help with some technical assistance for applicants who apply for this and successfully attend this particular program. And then the last couple of things, just resource links. Subscribe to our newsletter. Also on the water supply and infrastructure grant, we have 2 webinars coming up, and those will be April 23rd and May 13th. All of those details are on the website for the water supply and infrastructure grant, along with a great FAQ document, the actual application form, a lot of other resources and self-help material on the website. So that's all I have. I know it's very quick. A lot of things going on. I know there's a lot of interesting agenda items coming up too later this morning. So thanks for listening to the funding briefing.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Any questions for Scott? Thank you, sir. Thank you for sending your slides. I'll have those posted this afternoon.
Okay, thank you,
Scott. All right. Next up, we have Office of Compliance and Enforcement, and we have Kelly Sleeger here with us. And I'm going to pull up her presentation and do a screen share. Thanks for joining us, Kelly.
Mm-hmm. Morning. Good morning.
Set that down there.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Kelly Slager. I'm with our Office of Compliance and Enforcement. I'm the Drinking Water Liaison with the Program Support and Environmental Assistance Division. Mouthful. But our office houses our investigative staff. So everybody that's out in the regions, most of those staff members are with OCE in my office. And they're the ones that go out, do your investigations, all the CCIs, complaint investigations, stuff like that. So I won't take very much of your all's time this morning. I just want to give you guys an update on kind of how we're doing through our work plan this year. So every single year we have a universe of all of the PWS systems, and everybody's on a cycle, either 3 years or 5 years, depending on your type of water system. And we pretty much divide them pretty evenly over those 3 to 5 year cycles. So for this fiscal year, which runs September through to the end of August, we are kind of just smack in the middle right now. And we have investigated about 60% of our community PWSs. and that's 941 have been investigated. And then for our non-community PWSs, we are at around 50%, 51%, and we've done 248. This is across the statewide numbers. And then we've also, along with those scheduled investigations that we have, we also investigate complaints, and we have done 574 so far this year, which is quite a bit. So we're working through this too. Let's see, I think that was all I had for at least the numbers update. For all of the staff we have in the regional office, they don't all do investigations. We do have the small business and local government assistance program that housed within OCE as well. And there's at least 2 staff members in every single of our 16 regions out across Texas. And they do a ton of assistance. They have made guidance documents, oops, I went the wrong way. They have trainings, and they can help kind of schedule FMT assistance. You guys have a water supply division, and it's very, very helpful just for PWSs, and the assistance is all free. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that for you guys today, that we do have that available for people to reach out to. And since the slides will be posted, okay, so this link goes straight to the drinking water portion of their website, and it has a list of like different topics that they have assistance on, links to training videos. What I think are the most helpful are some of the templates that they have online. For example, a monitoring plan template. They have a plan and operations manual, a checklist for generator maintenance. There's a lot of different things that are new this year, including that generator maintenance checklist. So, and their contact information is here on the slide as well. So just give them an email, shoot them or a phone call, and it's all confidential as well. If for some reason you have a question they don't feel comfortable asking, like your regional staff, something like that, it's completely confidential, and they will not tell, anybody else that it was, your business, your water system calling. So very helpful. There we go. All right, I just wanted to highlight just some of the, what I think are pretty helpful items on the page. They have the generator checklists that I mentioned. So that's a PDF that you guys can, download, fill out, and have that available for when your investigator comes on site and they're like, hey, what have you guys been doing for maintenance? And then you're like, here you go, I have this nice sheet. They also have the monitoring plan template I mentioned. They're actively working on updating this RG 501, the managing your small public water system. This is more like for assets, financial kind of stuff. And they're updating that currently, and it should be done, I think they said here within a few months. It's just in the final stages of review. And then we also have, two of my other favorites are the compliance notebooks. Those are also under review right now. They have the older version here online, but they're going through the final updates currently. And that's everything I have in here with green arrows are the ones that are currently being updated. And they have the compliance notebooks are very, very helpful. They kind of give a little overview of the rules, and then also have like kind of just like templates and little like charts and stuff you can fill out for different compliance items. So just wanted, if anybody hadn't heard of it before, we did want to highlight that. But they are, like I said, confidential, free. Highly recommend you guys take advantage of this resource that we do offer. And then with that, that's all I have. So thank you guys. And does anybody have any questions for me? Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Okay. Oops. Some inception there. Next up, we will have Occupational Licensing present for us, and I believe Teresa's with us today.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
we can.
I have my laptop. I don't have a separate camera, so my laptop's in an awkward position. So I'm going to leave my camera off. And I also wanted to try to share my screen. I wanted to just give y'all an update about the trade fair and that we were going to be attending. So if I can share my screen, I've already pulled up the page with information for the for the FY26 trade fair that's going to be May 19th and May 20th in San Antonio. Can y'all see my page okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So again, it's going to be in San Antonio this year, May 19th through the 20th. Right now, the agenda is tentative or in draft form, but the plan is for occupational licensing to attend as we have a track outlined for us. So we should be there Tuesday, May 19th. And we have these 3 meetings scheduled. The first one is from 8:30 to 9:30 with Tamara Calhoun. The second, I'm sorry, it was pulling up copy paste stuff. The first session is from 8:30 to 9:30 with Tamara Calhoun. The second session is going to be from 10:30 to 11:30 with my colleague Velma Fuller. And then one last session with our occupational licensing training team, and that's going to be from 1 to 2 with Kenny Smith. We do have a technical booth set up in the exhibits hall. If you've ever attended the trade fair, you'll recall that smack dab in the middle of the exhibits hall is this huge cubicle type area, or I don't even know what you call it. It's this big area where we have multiple program areas in one place offering technical support. We will be in the vicinity of that booth. We asked for a little bit more space, and to accommodate us, they put us off to the side. So if you have any questions about occupational licensing and whether that's obtaining or maintaining an occupational licensing, please be aware that we're by the booth, but not in the booth like we have been in the past. And you can definitely stop by and ask your questions. We have a couple of updates that are going on with our system that has to do with the legislative actions that occurred during the 89th legislative session. Specifically, right now, we're updating our system with regards to a change for military members, veterans, and or their spouses. There were 2 changes that occurred, and that we needed to update our system or our application to accommodate this. The first is an individual who's a military member applying for reciprocity and trying to transfer an out-of-state license into Texas. They're now required to complete an affidavit and have it notarized. So we're adding that form embedded into our electronic application when they apply for a new license. The other addition is that the fee will be waived on new license applications. That's going to include, again, the new licenses. So if they're applying for a license for the very first time, whether it's our entry level, doesn't matter, the fee will be waived, but also including individuals who are upgrading their licenses or have other licenses with TCEQ. The change that happened is that we were already waiving the initial application fee, but that was just on one application. So if they needed licenses, say in water and in wastewater, we would waive just the first application fee on one or the other. Now they can apply for both, and as long as it's their first license, we'll waive the fee for both programs. So if they apply for a water and a wastewater simultaneously, both fees will be waived until on that application that they submit. So we're trying to update the application so that it doesn't prompt them to enter payment information. Of course, we have checks and balances in play. We could reach out to the individual requesting the fee. It just depends on what's going on with them. But the fee waiver will apply to individuals who are applying for a license, upgrading a license, or getting licenses in dual areas. And yeah, we're just trucking along. Does anybody have any questions about any of the updates that I've provided?
Any questions in the room? No questions.
Perfect. I'll leave my contact information in the chat in case you think of something later, because I will be leaving the meeting after this.
Yeah, thank you so much for helping.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, moving up. Next up, we have our plan and technical review section, and we have our section manager, Claire Carlton, to give us some updates.
Good Morning, everyone. I just have a few updates. We are fully staffed at our section. It's the best news I can bring to you guys. That's for us. We have onboarded 5 engineers in the past 6 weeks. And we also have a new technical specialist. She is in the room in the back, Michelle Ross. Michelle was on in the division before. She worked on the lead and copper monitoring team previously, but she also has worked for Maine and their drinking water program. So we are glad that she is back with us. So I'm super excited that we have all these new staff members, and hopefully we'll get them trained up, and happy to work for you guys. One other thing I wanted to make you guys aware of, and I don't know that this impacts you guys a lot, but we're just trying to put the word out there. We in the past have used what's called FTPS, so File Transfer Protocol site, to upload large files for submission to Plan Technical Review section. And that site is going away. It's going to be replaced with what's called TCEQ Send. And so these are for large submissions. So just a resource to put out there to you guys. We'll put a link in the chat to our website that also has information about this change, but I just wanted to make everybody aware. That will be ending, I believe, the 15th of April, FTPS. So make sure, to kind of put the word out. If anybody is going to be submitting large files to us, they will need to do it through the TCEQ Send website. And then the last thing I have for you guys is form updates. So Gulai has spoken in the past about form updates that we're making. These are specific to the plan review side. So we created 3 distribution forms, and they have been on the website for the past month. We've been seeking feedback from stakeholders. We have received the feedback, and so we'll be taking those down, making them final, and then putting them back up on the website for use, and they will be mandatory starting August 1st. So just wanted to share that information with you guys. That's it from me.
Any questions for Claire? Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have the Drinking Water Special Functions section, and the section manager, Stephen Swearinga, is joining us, and I believe Mason Miller as well.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. My name is Stephen Swearinga. I'm the section manager for Drinking Water Special Functions. I know you just heard that, but say it again. Couple things. I would like to welcome Hannah Waters, who is our new team leader for our section. Hannah came to us through a UTA contract, but then has worked in our inventory area for the last 3 years, and has just done a bang-up job. She's an amazing resource, and I'm really excited to have her join this team and in this capacity. So what that does, though, is that leaves a vacancy for us. And so there is an NRS2 posting up. So if you know somebody, please tell them. We love to get some fresh blood in here. So not in a negative way. So a couple of things. We have made a really significant update to our drinking water watch, which is now gone. It is now Drinking Water Viewer. We're going to have Rylan talk to us again about the viewer and just kind of show us, and especially the maps function that we had added into the viewer. And then we're also going to get a presentation from Danny Lopez on the CCR functions in the drinking water viewer. And so you'll hear about those from her. So if you got questions about that, and I'm sure that you do, we will try and answer as many of those as we can. Sounds like they're already loading up into the chat. So just real quick, Mason, if you want to jump in here and give us a quick spiel about the PDW conference, as you usually do in this event.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Hey, it's an honor to be here again this year. I'm coming to y'all live from Waco, Texas, to give my annual drinking water update for the Public Drinking Water Conference.
We're working really hard getting ready for another exciting year. The 2026 TCEQ Public Drinking Water Conference will be held August the 4th and 5th, and the conference will again be over at the Renaissance Austin Hotel located at Highway 183 and Highway 360 out at the Arboretum. This marks our 6th year to be at the Renaissance, so it seems like just the other day we were at the Doubletree there at 290 and I-35, and here we are going to have our 6th year there. Our theme this year is Every Drop Counts, and many of our topics will place an emphasis on this theme. At this year's conference, you can attend online or in person. I know this has been a movement that came about because of the COVID, and now it's starting to be something that's really, really beneficial. It allows some of our larger water systems that can't send, more than 1 or 2 people there. They can still have people stay back at their home office and attend the conference and earn CEUs. A save the date card will be emailed to all current water operators later this month. The conference brochure, which contains an agenda, registration, and hotel information, will be mailed to all public water systems on May the 18th. And registration will open to everyone. This is it right here. It opens on Tuesday, June the 9th at 9 a.m. So Tuesday, June 9th at 9 a.m. And when I get through with my update, I'm going to drop in the link to the PDW Conference page, and that way you can just click on that. And when registration opens, you go to our homepage, and it'll say register now, and it'll take you through the process. Register by going online to the TCEQ homepage, and you'll scroll to the bottom under TCEQ News Spotlight. And then that'll take you right there to it. Also, if you happen to not have the link that we're going to put up into the website. During the registration process, you will need to specify your job role, the type of PWS, who owns your PWS, and the PWS population. This information will help us plan by giving us a demographic of the conference registrants, so we can kind of know if we're going to have more surface water, more groundwater, kind of give us a way to project where the people are going to try to go. There will be 40 online or in-person presentations, with a majority given by TCEQ staff. And so we're looking for updates on drought planning, water loss. We'll have operator licensing there, right to know information, PFAS, preparing for a groundwater and a surface water investigation. So I ask our friends from OCE to come in and talk to us about, hey, what are we looking for when we do an investigation at your surface or groundwater? And then we'll also talk about asset management, and we'll have many more. So like I said, we're going to have 40 of those presentations. We plan to have a variety of hands-on workshops, including the new drinking water viewer. So we'll have 3 sessions on that, and we'll also have a table designated to the drinking water viewer in the technical assistance room, where you can come in there and work one-on-one with our TCEQ staff. We'll talk about water conservation, generator maintenance. We're going to have a cybersecurity workshop, calculations, chlorine injection pump maintenance, water quality testing, back T sampling, and we'll also have the TWIC group there, just to name a few of the workshops. We have the capacity to have 60 workshops at this conference, so there's lots of opportunities. As in previous years, there will be a very popular TCEQ technical assistance room that I mentioned earlier, available throughout the duration of the conference. This is a great opportunity to meet with TCEQ representatives in person to discuss specific water system issues, as well as put a face with a name. I've been told many, many times that this is one of the best parts of the conference. I can't tell you how many times I've been told, well, I've been talking to so-and-so on the phone, and I finally got to meet them in person at the conference. So that's really one of the things. This is about outreach. We'll have representatives from the Water Supply Division, obviously, and then we'll have the Texas Water Development Board there. Scott spoke to you a while ago. We'll have the Public Utility Commission there, Tammy Bentner, Silly, operator licensing, and water and wastewater investigators from around the state. Laboratory officials. So this is a heads up for the lab folks. Laboratory officials are invited to participate in a lab stakeholder meeting in conjunction with the PDW conference, and it's going to be on August the 5th from 1 to 4:30 p.m. You can attend in person or virtually for this. This will be an interactive meeting with TCEQ staff to speak one-on-one about your laboratory and discuss current rules and regulations. Registration to attend the laboratory stakeholder meeting will be open June the 9th, the same day as regular registration, and
when you register for that, you can register if you just want to come to the lab stakeholder meeting, you have an opportunity to just register for that, or just register to be online for that one, or you can register to attend the Public Drinking Water Conference, and then when that lab stakeholder begins on Wednesday afternoon, you just simply go down there and attend that too. So you can do one or the other. You can do the whole conference and do the lab thing, or you can just sign up for the lab stakeholder meeting. But again, that's going to be August 5th from 1 to 4:30 in the afternoon there on Wednesday. If you're interested in exhibiting, you can go to the TCEQ homepage for more information on exhibiting. We plan to have another great conference, and we're looking forward to seeing all of you there. Tell your friends about it. So mark your calendars and make plans to attend the 23rd. People ask me, it's 23rd. I counted it up on my fingers this morning to make sure. We started this in 2004, the annual PDW conference on August 4th and the 5th. Back to you, James and Stephen, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mason. It's very, very thorough. I honestly, this morning, as I was getting ready, I thought about putting on a tie just so Mason didn't outdo me, but as always, he has. Thank you. Very nice job, Mason.
No question, Stephen. I mean, is that it?
No. Are there any questions? August 4th and 5th, June 9th is when registration opens. Here's the most important.
Well, that means I covered it all. Well, y'all take care. It's great. Thank y'all for letting me join you.
You, Mason. Much appreciated. Were there any questions? Good. Thank you, Mason. You're good. I don't know how to unspotlight them. There you go. Okay, just a couple of other things. I know it's only mid-April, but hurricane season is coming up in June. So just take a look at the boil water notice page, just so you're familiar with it. Just a friendly, very early reminder. But also the more important reminder is to update your emergency contacts. Jackie is going to drop a link into the chat for both of those things, for the boil water notice page and for where you update your emergency contacts. Please do that. I think I'm just talking to the front row here. And I think you guys are already in there. So good. Well, thank you all very much. And I'll turn it over to the next person. Thanks, James.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. All right. Next up, we have the drinking water standards section with our section manager, Laura Higgins.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Like James said, my name is Laura Higgins, section manager for the drinking water standards section. If you've never met me before or unfamiliar with the work of the drinking water standards section, we do a lot of the compliance work for a lot of the different rules that relate to drinking water. So we've got the revised total coliform rule, the groundwater rule, PFAS, lead and copper monitoring, surface water treatment rule. All of these different compliance aspects fall within our section. So as always, we're hard at work. Some of the updates from our section include, well, at the last WAWG, we got to hear from our voluntary lead testing in schools and childcare program about the new GIS map that they've created. This time, we're going to hear from City of Austin about their experience with the program, but we're going to get to that a little bit later on in the agenda. We've been hard at work trying to make a lot of our documents accessible and updating our websites. So as part of that, if you are looking for anything that you are previously familiar with finding on our websites, like, for example, some of our monitoring forms or chain of custody forms, if they're not on the website, it's because we're currently working on making them accessible, and there should be information on the website to reach out to the program area if you need a copy. That being said, we're also making new resources. So we're updating what we have already existing, but we're also making new stuff. We've talked about in the past the new central monitoring, or the compliance monitoring data portal, CMDP, that all of our accredited labs are now using to submit their data for our various programs. We've been working on making some updates to existing documents, as well as creating new ones to help both the water systems and the laboratories be successful in reporting their data. We're going to discuss that in more detail in the next upcoming lab stakeholder meeting. So we talked about that there's going to be a special lab stakeholder meeting at the PDW conference, but there will also be a virtual meeting on April 22nd, which is next week. So if you're a laboratory or you want to encourage a laboratory to attend, there should be a registration link to attend that meeting soon. And then my last update is another thing that we've been working on. We've talked about this in past WAWGs, that the lead and copper monitoring team is hard at work making updates for the new baseline template for your service line inventories. We did an initial service line inventory in October of 2024, and now we're headed for the baseline service line inventory November 1st of 2027. So we're hoping to get that baseline inventory template available to everyone soon. I think that has been a theme of the past WAWGs on when's the date, when's it going to drop. I think at this point we are weeks away. We're very close to that finish line. But it's been really important to us that we get it right. We want to put out something that is of quality, that meets the needs of all of our water systems. And we know that there's some transition that's going to happen. Not everyone used our new Swift submittal portal when they submitted their inventory last time. So getting used to the portal again will be a challenge for some folks. So we want to make sure that when you get in there, when you get that template, there's not going to be any other changes once you're there. So trying to make sure that the template that's going to be available is good is important to us. That being said, if you have not used our portal before and you are unfamiliar with how it works, now is a great time to start getting those accounts set up. Register, make yourself an account, get familiar with the site. We've made some updates in the portal itself, so it's a lot more user-friendly. There's some nice big buttons about what you want to do. I want to submit a service line inventory, or other tools that might be available in there. So no time like the present. November 1st, 2027 is going to be here before we know it. So I think last time as we were gearing up for LCRR, that compliance date, you heard me talk about the inventories no less than 13 different times. So here we go again. This will be one of many discussions about compliance updates and things that are going to be on the horizon and coming up for us. And I hope to, be able to bring you some more updates about resources and things that we have available. But we're just getting started. If you haven't used the portal before, go ahead and get yourself registered, get familiar with it. And as always, check out our websites, because as I mentioned, we're making new changes, we're making updates, we're making things more accessible. So hopefully they should be continuously improving for the better for all of our friends here in our regulated community. All right, and that's it for me. Any questions?
Any updates regarding LCR sampling schedules and reduced monitoring?
As it relates to the LCRI, and I do not have an update on that at this time, but stay tuned. I'm sure we will in the future. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Laura. Okay. Next up, we have the Emergency Preparedness and Response section with Irina Kuchniewski, and I'm going to pull up her presentation here just short.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Irina Kuchniewski, and I'm the section manager for the Emergency Preparedness and Response section. So today I would like to walk you through a few updates and also share with you important reminders. Okay, so first I would like to talk about outdated documents. Our emergency preparedness plan for Harris and Bourbon counties was updated on October 2025. So this document now has a more clear language and also reflects the current rule requirements. If you're planning to submit a new plan or the revised plan, we highly encourage you to use the new template. Another document which was updated is our Cross Connection and Control Program document, RG 478. So we updated this document in February 2026. So this document had not been updated since 2016. So it was due for revision. The new document has now more clear language. We clarified some some language in this document, and also we removed confusing language. We added additional examples and also added new description of the program. So both documents are available on TCEQ website. Here's a QR code, so you can scan it or save it for later. Steven mentioned a hurricane season, but I would like to talk about drought. So yeah, we're in Texas. We need to be prepared to both events. So current, I put two slides here, two maps. One is from 2025, the other 2026. Both are from April. So you can see that conditions have worsened compared to 2025. So in April 2025, drought was limited to west area of Texas. In April 2026, it has expanded across the state, so now including eastern and central regions. So because of this, we sent you on March 25th, we sent email to all public water systems. And in this email, we just reminded you about the requirements, notification requirements or reporting requirements. So when do you need to report? Every time when systems decide to implement mandatory water use restriction, that's the time to send us notification. Every time when you decide to change the mandatory water use restriction, so you're going from stage 1 to stage 2, you need to let us know. And also when your water supply drops below 180 days. So all those three requirements are in our rules. Please keep that in mind. Have to report to us. There's a TCEQ online form, easy to use. We have only a few questions. So this is the link. You can click on link, or again, QR code is available for you. I would like to talk a little bit more about 180 days, 180 days of water supply. So if your system has less than 180 days of water supply, that's the time to pause and ask questions. Review your current restriction stage and ask the question, are restrictions strong enough? So less than 180 days, this is the emergency condition. So what stage should I use for that event? So if your answer for the question, are restrictions strong enough, is no, you need to review your drought contingency plan and review and move to the more restrictive stage. But the overall goal is not to wait until you below 180 days. So the overall goal is to preserve water and try not to even be at this situation. So I encourage everyone to review your drought water contingency plan, check your water use restriction, and determine what would be the best restriction for this month, and review them periodically. I also would like to talk a little bit about cybersecurity. So due to current activities in the Middle East, federal agencies are encouraging public water systems to strengthen cybersecurity. And there are three basic steps which each system should implement. So the first one is to reduce internet exposure. Next one is replace default password with unique and strong ones. And the last one, that's use multi-factor authentication for your system. So those three main steps, we all should be aware of this, and I hope you are all implementing those. So in addition to those steps, there's a really great resource called POD Cyber Action for Securing Water Systems. So this guidance is simple, practical guidance which discuss additional steps which can be taken to reduce cyber risk. And this one is so useful for small systems with limited resources or staff. I mentioned this guide document before, so this is, again, I want to emphasize this. If you don't know how to protect your system, please read. And if we have any questions, we are always ready to answer. So I think, yeah, this is all for me. Yes.
Where is the cybersecurity guidance on the TCEQ website, or is that on a separate federal website?
There's a link to, we do have a lot of resources on TCEQ website. I'm not sure about this particular because I put the link exactly to this document. I'll check if this one is on TCEQ website.
What federal agency is that? What agency website is that available on? What federal agency is that guidance through?
I believe it's EPA and then CSED, the cybersecurity infrastructure. And I forgot the rest of the abbreviation, but it's CISA. And we'll post that on that chat here shortly.
Okay, so it's on the EPA website.
Yes, it should be.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Next up is the Innovative and Sources and Treatment team. Wenji is not here with us today as he's in training, but he did provide me slides to share with everyone. Okay. Like I said, Innovative Sources and Treatment team. So Wenji wanted to provide the following updates for his team. They have 4 positions currently open, 2 engineering specialists, 5s to be filled, and 2 engineering engineer level 3s. That's a PE requirement to be filled on their team. But right now they currently have 3 engineers working on their team, and they are focusing on innovative treatments, so PFAS, desalination, DPR, and produced water, and anything else that might not fall into the set kind of standard guidance there. Their team also does the new wastewater Texas optimization program, or WWTOP. They also have an engineer 3 position that they're looking to fill at this time, but they have 2 specialists working on their team right now, Chad and Lisa. And they're also working with our financial managerial and technical assistance group. This is a new program. I believe they're just about to get the QAP, the quality assurance document, approved. But if you have any questions, you can message www.top@tceq.texas.gov. And on the right-hand side there, you can see the things that they're going to try to work on. Upcoming. So it's a new program similar to our existing top program for water, but now just on the wastewater side as well. Any questions on that? Okay. Okay, next up is quality assurance. With us here today, we have one of our specialists here, Scott Delgado.
James. Hi, y'all. My name is Scott Delgado. Jessica Hope is online. And just short update for y'all today. 3 things. The Public Water System Supervision Program, WAP, is soon to be approved. We're hoping to get approval from EPA in May. And you can find us at the trade fair, the TCEQ trade fair in May also. We're going to be discussing that, kind of some of the changes going on, and kind of how that can be applied to your PWS. Second thing, not to be confused with Mason's presentation, but we have a quarterly lab meeting next week, and we'll be posting the registration in chat and also sending it out through email. This lab meeting is always 1 week after the DWAWG, and it's kind of a stakeholder meeting that labs can kind of talk to TCEQ staff and answer any questions. So that was my short update. So, and then y'all can contact me at scott.delgado@tcq.gov. That's all.
Thank you, Scott. We got it. Excellent. Okay. Next up is any other updates. I was going to mention again, PDW Conference, registration link opens June 9th. Trade fair, like Teresa mentioned, is in May. And also, if you're interested, Texas Water is coming up here at the end of the month, I believe the 24th and 5th. Okay. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is great. We're going to take a short, let's say 15-minute break, and we're going to come back at 10:10. Lighter. All right, everyone, we're going to get started again. Quick reminder since I didn't say it before, so first reminder for those in office, not from TCEQ, there is a sign-in sheet in the back. If you can hit that when you're leaving, I appreciate it. And we'll go ahead and get started. And we have City of Austin here with us to talk about lead testing in schools.
Okay, hey y'all. My name is Crystal Lindell. I am the Water Regulatory Coordinator for Austin Water. One of the many things that I do is help Austin Water comply with lead and copper rule, from tap sampling to this feature here. And yeah, many parts to lead and copper rules, but we're going to talk about this one. So this is sort of our agenda. I kind of hate agenda slides, but this is our agenda always, including for this talk, and that is to meet the rules and improve health. Got to start a timer, sorry. Don't stay forever. Well, tough. We're just going to take however long it takes. Okay. And then for us, and hopefully you also save money while doing those first two things. So let's talk about the rule itself. Very brief history that's not on the slide, right? In the 80s, the feds started reducing the amount of lead in piping, right? In the 90s, we said, well, we know all that lead's out there, but let's focus on the water systems, control that water chemistry, prevent the corrosion, go out sample at customer taps, right? And keep your water chemistry under control. Then after Flint, then there was a lot more like, oh, maybe we will go get all that lead out of the ground just in case. And so that came at us in a couple of revisions, lead and copper rule revisions in 2021, and then the lead and copper rule improvements, or LCRI, in 2024, which, overwrote, clarified, and in a couple cases postponed a few elements of the revisions that came in 2021. So here we are in 2026. Hopefully you got these memos. We've all been working heavily on our service line inventory, submitted that in 2024. We have sent out now 2 rounds of notifications to the customers with increased health risk lines. So lead, and then these new categories called galvanized requiring replacement. And so that's like a lot of work. Coming up hot next year, right? Towards the end of the year, you're going to be, you're in the thick of it. You're trying to figure out replacement programs for those lead and galvanized lines. You are working on your messaging with customers. Maybe your inventory is incomplete, and so you're still working through unknowns. You have a lot of that you're doing, and then way down here at the bottom, you're like, oh, so we have to offer testing to schools and childcares. That's new. That seems like we're all, if you're in the thick of the rest of it, that's like way down at the bottom. But I'm here to try to convince you that even if that's where you're at, if you're a big system, small system, got unknowns, got lead, don't have any of that, whatever, don't wait till 2027. You can make some minimal investments right now and then get compliance credit through 2032. So, but let's start with the most noble reason for starting now instead of waiting and dragging our feet on this new hard thing. And that is to improve health. And the need in schools and childcares is real. We are aware that lead has health risks, right? Neurological, developmental, especially for those kids younger than 6. We all know that despite the 15 ppb that you might be familiar with, which is the action level for a water system, there is no safe level of lead, right? The goal is 0. And for schools, like especially, these are large buildings, right? And we probably know with lots of topics at hand that water quality in large buildings is kind of tough to maintain. And so that affects lead leaching as well in some of these affected buildings. And the long and the short of it is nobody's asking these schools to test, except for now we are offering it as a service coming soon, right? The state doesn't make them, DSHS doesn't make them, CEA doesn't make them. It's completely voluntary situation. And if you don't know, you don't test. So Awesome Water, we have really like non-corrosive water. And so I thought, sure, we'll check this box, but whatever. But what's really brought it home for me, these results over here on the right are actually from our service area. So in a district that was testing, doing their best, doing great. We asked a lot of questions. They were like, yeah, we do that. We did that. They were using a certified lab. They were a system who is testing might only be spot checking, right? And so despite all of their efforts so far, there were 73 PPBs coming out of a drinking water fountain at an elementary school. This faucet is in a classroom. Kids may or may not have been drinking from it, right? 162 PPBs, right? So there is still lead out there, especially in these large buildings. Nobody is necessarily testing them. And so the lead and copper rule improvements brought to us water systems this idea that we should have to offer testing in a controlled way or a limited way. So a whole lot of details, but starting in 2027, you're supposed to let them know that you will offer them testing. You have to send them the EPA's 3 Ts toolkits, kind of a long-winded PDF that goes over lead and testing and prevention. And the T's, by the way, are training, testing, and taking action. So just FYI. So each year for the first 5 years, you're supposed to sample up to 20% of your schools, 20% of your childcare facilities. Do that every year for 5 years. Theoretically, you've hit 100% of them. You have to sample at least 2 outlets that are very prescribed. So you don't have to jot this down because I'm going to give you the cheat sheet here in a second. 2 childcare outlets, 5 elementary schools, right? Because otherwise you're like, oh, how many of these do I have to do for every school I serve? It's a lot. Holy moly. It is a different sampling protocol than tap sampling if you've been in the weeds on that. So it's smaller samples. The stagnation is required, which is complicated for a large building with kids coming and going all hours of the day. And, there's some like outs, like you don't actually have to sample. You just have to provide for sampling. So what does that mean? What does it mean for the people you're trying to get to enroll? Very complicated. And so I'd like to say maybe it's a whole other bottle of wax. But the good news is you don't need to know any of that because I'm going to show you how to do it for free-ish and really simplify everything. That whole other slide does not really matter to you if you do the thing that I'm going to tell you about today and what Awesome Water is doing. So Awesome Water is taking advantage of TCEQ's lead and testing in school and childcare program, or LTSCC. And this is, via LCRI, when they rewrote it over the LCRR, they being the feds, they realized there was some redundancy. Some localities, some states across the nation do have sampling programs that meet all those requirements that were on the next slide. And so they said, well, after COVID, maybe like don't go too far back, but like after COVID, if you have data that meets those specifications, you can count that. Okay, don't like redo it all. And so there is a statewide program that is free. It's free for you. It's free for the schools. It's not free for the grant providers, but that doesn't matter. It's voluntary for the schools. You can't force them to do it. You're not forcing them to do it under LCRI either. And it's open to all public schools and licensed childcares. So that's basically all of them, excluding the private schools. Little loophole where sometimes there is a childcare in a private school that could be sampled for free, but maybe not the whole school. And it's, I think, really a silver bullet. Glad my animation worked. And it's not only that, it's like all that and a bag of chips, like I like to say. So it's not going to do the 2 outlets or the 5 outlets, right? Some schools were already doing that, and they had that little 76 ppbs was still hanging out there, poisoning children. But they will actually test all the water outlets where children drink, brush their teeth. Some daycares work on that, right? And where food is prepared, so like school kitchen facilities. So they'll do all the outlets, all of them. You don't have to do any of them, right? They offer really robust training and live support. They have a whole online module. Their technical communication is there for your customers and you if you're working with them through the whole process. And then these 2 little, what are those, hexagons on the right are really important. So I'm really impressed at how they've been able to remove some barriers to enrollment. You know, you call the school, they're like, well, you're already testing the water. Like, I got a lot to do. I don't really want to know because, like, what am I going to do about it? Right? And so we're like, oh, I don't have a science background. I take care of children. I educate. So these 2 things on the right, they will show up and do all the things for the school, right? They will inventory the outlets. They will come flush the building, collect the samples, ship them off, and send back the results, right? They do all of that. And then most importantly, where lead is detected, so not at 15, not at 5, where lead is detected, anywhere they will provide some remediation. So we'll get into that a little bit more. I don't want to exhaust y'all going through these slides, but just if your job is going to be to encourage your customers to enroll in this program. So what is the program, right? If they choose not to work with you directly and they're just going over to the program, they enroll. It's a sign-up form. Pretty straightforward. Districts will usually enroll their whole district all at once. The liaison, whoever that point person is, it could be the admin office. It could be the director. It could be a teacher. It could be the facilities guy. They have to complete training. It's literally, I think this is so important to say, less than 10 minutes. Okay, they complete this little training and then they notify the stakeholders. This usually comes in the form of pasting this piece of paper that the program has already provided, like insert your name here, put it on the door, check that box. Some folks will send it out via like an app, but they're supposed to, or they're encouraged to notify their community that they are doing this just for transparency and public education. I did kind of pass up, what's on those slides? This little green star. So that's really important to me. Again, LPSCC folks will show up and do all these things with your customer, like hold their hand, because honestly, they have other things to do and think about. So like I said, after they've done that training and notified their community that they're going to participate in this program, they complete an outlet inventory. So do it with photos and descriptions because you're trying to identify these sources, right? If they are the ones collecting the training or collecting the samples, they're going to do another very quick training. Again, 7 minutes. Here's how you collect a sample. And then all of the materials are provided. Then no stars on these, but they certainly have support line if they need it. They get this packet sent to them with all their results and some recommendations on what they could do. Some actions are really easy. Put that faucet out of service. Make it hand washing only if it's for older students. If it is a designated tap, you can get a filter pitcher. And then this is also really cool. They will provide a bottle filling station. Now, the one little caveat in the bottom box there is that they can't pay for the install, but usually it's usually a larger facility that has bottle fillers, and they tend to have facility staff. So if it's a franchise childcare facility or if it's a large school district, they usually have people who will install them. But nonetheless, that full station is free of charge, right? So yeah, lots of support the whole way. They come with a lot of background. They're offering this service all across the state. They asked me to share their metrics, but they have currently over 4,800 facilities, including 2,700 public schools enrolled and 2,000 childcare facilities. When I see this, I worry like, okay, well, if I tell my people to come to you, are you gonna leave them? Are they on a wait list? And the answer is no. They are ramping up staffing as needed to get people taken care of very quickly. So all you really have to do is not worry about all those check boxes. How many faucets, which schools, how many do I have? you just gotta like call these guys. So this is our playbook. Step one at the top is just call TCEQ's LTSCC and say, hey, this is my situation. They vary, utility to utility. Maybe your city has an ordinance, maybe they don't. Maybe you don't know where to start. Maybe you already know who your child cares are. Wherever you're at, just call them up and they will say, oh, I see you. You're this water system. Here's your people. Let's talk about what we can do. What would you like to do? And so either nowadays they can kind of tell you who your child cares are and your schools are, but you need that list, right, for compliance in 2027. So you need to establish your list, which is much easier than it was 3 years ago. And then you're just going to start connecting with your schools, connecting with the child cares, engaging other community stakeholders if you can, and then just let it roll in. Okay. So step one really is this easy. Try to make it super easy. Let's see this again. But like schedule, they have you can just schedule 30 minutes to chat with these folks straight up and have that conversation. You can email them. This is Brittany. When you call that helpline, it's the same helpline that the schools would call if they need help. And the human being answers the phone, and it's usually this lady here. There's a couple others who I know. Step two, identify your schools and child cares. So I did update this slide. This is the viewer somebody mentioned earlier. I don't know if I'm going to break it by clicking this hyperlink. Can I do that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I did this the hard way with all these resources here at the bottom 3 years ago, and it can still be done. And I do kind of cross-reference sometimes. But one of the great things is, okay, you can really get your school and childcare list in like 3 clicks. I just made up the 3 part, but I'm going to show you. So if you come here, you follow that link, and it's maybe not so obvious because this says it's sample results, and it is. All the sample results are publicly available. But what they have done to help us do our job and make use of their program is you can go type in your water system, use ID, you can use your name. And so City of Austin. Okay. Filter it, there we go. Maybe enter button. Maybe. Oh no, these are mine. Okay. And then you just export it. Ta-da! You're done. Actually, as I was saying to Laura, that they have been really responsive. I called them up and I was like, oh, that's really great. But like, I do different things with my schools and my daycare. So like, can you put which one it is? And then like 2 days later, there's a drop down. I don't know if I want to go through the motions, but it's just an Excel sheet and I can just filter and I get my 500 schools, childcare, and I filter and I get my 250 schools. And it's got their mailing address. Okay. Yeah. So for those other resources at the bottom are kind of how I did it 3 years ago. You can pull all the schools for your zip codes and kind of run them through your billing department and, sort things out. But it's much easier now if you just do that easy button at the step 1, you've already called them. Step 2, you got your list. You're like halfway there. Now you need to make your connection. So I do want to tease apart that schools and childcares do function pretty differently. So schools, usually your best point of contact, I've been working on this for a while, don't start with the ends, don't start with the school board. They are busy putting out other fires. Your best inroad is usually with a facility manager. So look up that school's website, go to their directory, find that guy's or gal's email address and call them up, usually call them up or send them an email. You might already have some existing connections because these are usually have commercial water lines, right? So you might have already had conversations. So AISD, we had already talked to them about a few things. So we called up the guy we knew and said, hey, why aren't y'all participating? And they gave us their reasons and we talked them down and now they're enrolled. October, February, April are usually good times of year because of the school cycle, right? They're out for the summer. Planning for sampling over breaks. You don't actually have to do that planning. They just have to call. You just need to connect them with the LTSCC, but they do tend to sample over breaks, not on the daily. And I will say, try again. So we've gotten some hard no's and then the next year, I email them, hey, remember last year I called you about this, just wondering if you're interested. And they're like, well, actually, yes. Or, not going to lie, maybe I shouldn't say this online, but sometimes your executives and folks will have personal connections, or in my case, I got my children's school district signed up just by showing up as a mom. They're like, hey, how come you're not doing this? So they were my second win. We're out in Maynard. But yeah, once you, like, we got AISD on board and they enrolled all their schools, and that was half of our schools. So that 20% metric each year, boom, done, right? So big wins on that level. And again, all I'm doing, this is where I said minimal effort. I used my list and I sent a letter and I sent an email. I made a phone call. I didn't go sample, I didn't go train, I didn't go flush, nothing, right? I just led that horse to water. Childcare's a little bit different. They are usually run by a director or an owner. There are a few franchises that will do a larger scale enrollment, but mostly you're talking about a lot of in-home care. There's a lot of houses that just bring in other kids and they're licensed by the state, and they can get their kitchen sink tested this way, right? They are also the ones who are going to be a little more worried about, like, maybe not they're more worried, but they may not have all the resources to make heavy improvements if lead is found, but that is what's so great about this program, right? LCRI doesn't say you have to provide them a filter. Good luck getting them to enroll if they're not guaranteed a fix. But if you get them in this program, they get a fix for every bit of lead they find, right? For free. So these guys are usually year round, so you can reach out anytime. And then you see this little star over here. We've been going back and forth with the LTFCC folks, and I said, listen, like, it's all great. I'm telling them about your program, and, you know, like, yeah, I was kind of concerned about brand meddling, but, like, if I could just, like, sign them up, like, get them on the phone, just, you know, and they made that happen, right? So this little star says, I was hired for this position. Maybe you're a small utility, you don't have one of me. So it's whatever degree of involvement you want, but I can call these people up, get them on the horn, sign them up. I can actually show up, be like, hey, I'm free next Tuesday. Let me show up and do the trainings with you and inventory all your outlets. So anybody in your PWS could be trained to help them do these things. You just take that 5 and 10 minute training, and then you help do it for them, if you will. So yeah, I'm finding that the one-on-one contact in particular is most useful with the childcare facilities and getting them enrolled right then and there on the spot and making that happen for them. There are some other opportunities you can take advantage. There's no reasons why you should wait till 2027 to put a blurb about this in your CCR. You already got to send it out. Just add a little call out, give them the hyperlink, encourage them to sign up, right? You can put it in your bill stuffers, your mailers. You can send postcards, which are, you know, a fraction of the cost compared to an actual letter. I called up Austin Public Health and was like, hey, don't you inspect childcare? And they're like, yeah. So I gave them a training and then a flyer set and was like, go give that to them. So the LTCES, the lead testing program folks, they have found that, like, it takes, I feel silly, right? Because I'm calling these people over and over again, but it takes at least about 7 points of contact for them to go, oh, okay. What were you saying? So don't be afraid to hit them again, hit them multiple directions. If you're out at a tabling event, there's a lot of connections out there that you might already have or can find to get that message out there and help you meet your metrics. There we go. These are extremely old data, probably from 2 years ago, and very underestimated in the sense that those dollars was strictly the going rate of a sample, and the number of samples that I happen to know are from my service area. So we've saved a ton of money and gotten a lot of tests done, over 6,000 outlets sampled with, perhaps surprisingly, over 1,500 lead detections, right? As high as 162 parts per billion when they went out there, sampled places that maybe thought they were already checked, right? It's like in my heart to hit 20% of childcares before the rule takes effect. I have an intern coming in this summer, and this is going to be their work, and I think we're going to do it. You can do this too. Before the money dries up, before the needs change, right? They are well funded. I call them every once in a while. I'm like, listen, you still got plenty of money? Because, like, I still got a lot of customers. And they're like, yeah. it could go away eventually. So get it now. And just a reminder, just do it. Get your list, make a phone call. You're halfway there, right? Again, I'm hired to do this job, right? It's a large part of what I do in addition to inventory stuff. But I feel like any utility can send a letter, add it to their CCR, right? So with that, I feel like this is like a less useful slide. I'm just gonna leave it on that one for you. But do you have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So I represent Trade Association for Rural Water Utilities. So they're out, you know, they're rural.
Yeah.
So what is the scope of this program? Can they go out to very rural?
Everywhere. Every water system. Yeah. Any public school. So the last drinking water conference, somebody stood up and I was not the speaker, so I stood down. But he's like, well, my high schools are asking, like, do we really have to? Does not matter. Easy button. They will do it all, right? They will do it is all their work to do. All you have to do is make that connection. Rural, urban. They have been really responsive to sizing up or down. Like here in Austin, they have 2 samplers, kind of always, my understanding. But then they call me and they said, hey, we're really trying to get this district and this district. Can you call them again? I called them again. I got one of them. The other one said no. And they said, cool. I'm going to staff up for the summer so we can knock them out. So they, I don't know how that works exactly, but they are really responsive. When this program started, they weren't going on site and pulling those samples, but now they do because they recognize that's a barrier for people's enrollment. So to your point, anywhere, any public school or licensed childcare.
So are there offices all over Texas, or they're all located here and they would have to travel?
I don't know the answer to that necessarily.
They're mostly in Austin, but I believe someone else lives like San Antonio, JB, but they travel everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so
much. You can, that's all I was about to do. Back it up.
Yeah, participants have been, it's really all over the state.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm just curious about the childcare facilities. It seems like you're doing really well with getting the schools to respond. What's the, I don't know, the main obstacle that you've had with getting the childcare facilities? And then, you've got 17%, and that's old data. So where have you had your successes with getting?
Yeah, so childcares are a totally different animal. I have 4 kids in childcare, so I know the other side. And 2 of those were just people I know, like, hey, can I show up and try this program out on you? They're like, sure. So the childcares are constantly changing. So that's one thing. They are just really busy, really, really busy. They struggle with staffing and money of their own, if you keep up with that at all. So I am really excited. I was really hoping before Texas Water, I'd have woohoo, but then my intern got delayed and it was the whole thing. I'm really hopeful that now with that little green star, with me being able to call them, I don't know why it should matter, right? But I have found when I send them information, that's one more thing they have to do, right? Sometimes that activation energy is just conference. So what I found is the most successful is to get them. The phone calls are usually pretty good. That's that 17% has been kind of stagnant since 2 summers ago when I had an intern and we went and called every single of our 500. Some of them answer, some don't. Some are no thanks. A lot of them are oh yeah, maybe, and then they just not enroll. And so I'm really hopeful that this round we will get them enrolled on the spot, and then I can spend a little bit more energy following up with TCEQ or LTSCC and to the childcare themselves. Be hey, because you ask them then, do you want to take the samples? Most of them are no. And so you're great, we're signing up for that, or I'll show up on Tuesday, whatever it is. So they are just really busy, and this is the last thing they want to deal with, especially if they think oh, do you have an old house? Just that, that one-on-one It's really effective.
Language been an issue? Like, I know the lady that took care of our kids, she only spoke Spanish.
Yeah, yes. So I serendipitously happened to have an intern 2 years ago that did speak some Spanish. I am currently trying to work through our creator organization to figure out how to better facilitate language access, even when it comes to top sampling compliance and things. But yes, there are, especially in Central Texas, there's a lot of Spanish only speakers. And so everything we send out is translated. So that's one step. When I call, I don't speak Spanish. And the LTSCC does employ bilingual folks. So if I were to get a Spanish answering machine or a Spanish somebody picking up the phone, I would probably just notify them, hey, I called this person. I couldn't talk to them. Can you call them? And they'll, yep, get right on it.
No questions in the chat?
Any questions? For those of you in the room, they did send me their latest, greatest flyer. So if you are a tactile person and want to take a copy with you, feel free. Otherwise, you said you're going to post all these, right?
Yes.
Yes, please.
All right. So thank you so much. Really appreciate that great presentation. Yes. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing and pull up our next presentation from the Office of Compliance and Enforcement. I have Amy here with us to talk about expedited compliance orders.
And while you're pulling that up, are we on camera somewhere or no?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I did want to just introduce myself and then some personnel changes within the division that have happened in the last couple of months. So I am Amy Sedemeyer. I'm the Deputy Director for our Enforcement Division in the Office of Compliance and Enforcement. If you've been around the drinking water world in the enforcement section for a while, you probably recognize both of the names I'm about to say, but they've both taken on new positions. So Megan Hamilton is my new Assistant Deputy Director. She started in that role on March 1st. And then Stephen Hall is my new Section Manager for the drinking water section. So if at any point you do find yourself on the enforcement side of the house for drinking water related issues, you will be most likely visiting with Mr. Stephen, and just wanted to take the time to introduce you all. So,
Hi, everyone.
Right.
See you. Thanks, Amy.
Okay. Okay, so I will get started. So we just recently rolled out an expedited compliance order that really allows us to move our enforcement actions for specific violations more quickly through the process. We started this looking at what we could do to move certain things quicker about 2.5 years ago. And so it really has been a process to get to where we are now with full implementation. But really the goal is to achieve compliance faster and improve our efficiency by reducing the time and resources needed to move certain types of orders through. Sorry. It's okay. Okay. Now everybody can see it. All right. So the new process that I'm going to walk through today, it does set reduced penalties in recognition of the entities coming into compliance, because that is a critical piece of this new process. Because the compliance has already been achieved, it doesn't require any tracking after the order becomes effective. So our normal orders, if they have technical requirements, the enforcement coordinators still have to track those for compliance once we get them to the effective state. And it generally happens a lot quicker. So right now, our target is to get an order out within 60 days for our normal process. We're doing better. We're not quite there yet on every order, but this one gets out the door in under 20 days, usually within the first 15. So we do have the legal authority to do this under our current statute. It allows us to issue an administrative order, which is what this is. It includes the delegation to the ED. Most of these will be under executive director delegation, which is $12,500 or less in payable penalty or assessed penalty. And then we are meeting all the requirements of what an order has to have. So one of the big differences between the new order and normal orders is we will not have a penalty calculation worksheet for these expedited orders, or these expedited orders. Because we've set the penalties per violation, there's no need to have that worksheet anymore. You'll know what your penalty is up front. These are the programs and the number of violations within each program. As you can see, drinking water, we've identified 102 violations that we believe meet the criteria to be included into this program. Some of the criteria we looked at were, can they actually be resolved within 60 days? Because that's a key part of this process. And then what's the impact? Are they minimal impact to human health and the environment? So in some of the other programs, you'll have a lot of record keeping violations because there's not a direct impact in most of those situations. Those are more programmatic record keeping type things. To be eligible for this program, all violations on a notice of enforcement must be eligible for ECO. So if we get an enforcement action that has 7 violations on it, 5 of them are eligible for the program, 2 are not, it is not eligible for the ECO. It will have to go through the traditional route. Violations have to be corrected within 60 days. That's a firm number. The point of this is moving it through, getting that compliance quickly. And so if you say, well, I can hit it in 90 days, we're going to move you through the normal process. We're not going, that's going to be a firm date. Violations typically can include a suspected or confirmed release or spill or require remediation. And then finally, the case cannot meet findings agreed order conditions. And so if you've had multiple agreed orders or you have had an actual impact that rises to the level of findings, an excessive emissions event, a fish kill situation, you wouldn't be eligible for this program either. On the respondent side of the house, we're looking to see, does the respondent have active or pending matters at the OAG? If they do, they're not eligible for this. No pending or active shutdown, default orders, revocations, pending at the facility, no outstanding delinquent fees or penalties. The same respondent at the same facility cannot have been offered an ECO for the same violation. So that was 3 criteria there. Same respondent, same facility, same violation in the last 2 years. And so if it's a different violation, they could potentially get it if during our screening process we identify that maybe it meets, but same, you can't get it for at least 2 years. And then we're going to look after that. And then when it comes to our compliance history, you cannot be a repeat violator or unsatisfactory performer. Other considerations, all of these orders still require that 30-day public notice period. That's statutorily mandated. So they will all be published on Texas Register for that 30-day window to allow for the public to comment on any order. And then respondents will still be able to participate in the supplemental environmental project. The difference here is it will be limited to those third-party steps because in most cases we cannot get a compliance step or contribution step. Custom step approved within 30 days or even 60 days in a lot of cases. And so this is really those third-party steps that we're looking at. Penalty considerations. So basically what we're talking about is a 50% reduction from our base penalty. And so in our normal process, when we have an agreed order that we're managing in the division, respondents get a 20% deferral for agreeing to that order and moving it through our process. We're applying another 20% for that good faith effort for coming into compliance. And that's a normal part of our process. If we have compliance, we're giving people that 20%, right? The last one is a 10%, and it's labeled compliance history, but really what that's meant to encompass is any other factor that we might do a reduction for. Most of that comes from the compliance history world, audits, high performers, that sort of thing. But there could be other factors in that, but that is what that 10% encompasses. So for a total of 50% reduction from that base penalty amount. Just wanted to give a quick example of what an order could have looked like had we had ECO when this one went through. So we have on the left side a PWS minor facility, traditional order 1,140. Expedited compliance, once we got it all said and done, you can see $570 if they were in compliance. We had same assigned date, initial proposed order mailed. And on ECO, we would have had it out in 30 days, right? That's our metric, getting it out the door in under 30 days if possible. Obviously, settlement, we assume we got settlement, and we were able to achieve compliance by October of that year, as opposed to having, in this particular order, we actually ended up having to refer it to litigation because we were unable to attain settlement. It was for, this particular one was for failure to provide all ground storage tanks with a liquid level indicator. And the penalty set is major facility 175, minor facility 75. All right, I just went through that at lightning speed, but does anybody have any questions for me? We are working on a webpage to put all this information. Had some hiccups to getting it out there, but there will be a website soon. And yeah, any questions?
No questions on.
Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay. Close here. Janelle got called away, so we're going to move ahead in the agenda here. And so next up, we're going to move into the annual consumer confidence reports. We have Danielle with us here today. I will pull up her presentation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Danielle Lopez. I'm one of the compliance officers for the CCR program. And the CCR is an annual report that community systems have to submit by July 1st. So I will be talking about how to complete that CCR. So to begin drafting your CCR, community water systems would have to navigate to the wonderful drinking water viewer. From there, you could go ahead and click that consumer confidence report search, and that's going to narrow the search in the search for section. From there, you could go ahead and enter the water system name under water system name field, or the PWS ID under water system ID field. And then once you enter those, you can go ahead and hit search. From there, there's going to be a new page that pops up. So under that CCR column, you are going to hit download, and that will download the 2025 draft. You are responsible, and by you, I mean the system is responsible to fill out any additional information or data requirements. So the first section that systems will need to fill out is the system contact information. This is where you are going to put either a contact name and a phone number, so consumers are able to reach out and call to ask about their drinking water. You could also provide any public participation information. So again, consumers are able to go to those, for example, board meeting, so they can make decisions based on their drinking water. And then every English report would need to include a Spanish statement of some sort. There is already a drafted statement, but right now we are trying to work on updating that. So please use the example statement that is shown on the slide. The next section that systems will need to fill out is the source water information. So this just lets the consumer know of where the system gets their water from, and that is either a groundwater or surface water. And then you would also have to name that almost body of water, so aquifer, lake, or river. And then you would also have to include a source water assessment status. And there are two ways to convey that information. The first way is using the already downloaded table that is shown. And that is mostly pre-populated already with information, but the systems are required to fill out the last two columns. So either the source water status, if it was done or not, and the location of where you could find that. If you'd rather not use that table, you could go ahead and replace that with a statement. And I've also added that statement on the slide. That is to let them know the availability and how to obtain that assessment. And then it also provides sources of contaminants in that source water area. If you're a little bit unsure of where systems could find their source water assessment, I provided a URL under that if using pre-populated table column. So next is the mandatory service line availability statement. Now, a lot of systems end up skipping this, and which is really unfortunate because they are required to add that into their reports. This just lets the consumer know that a service line inventory has been developed or is being developed and where they can go ahead and obtain that information. I've also added an example statement that reads that a service line inventory has been prepared and can be accessed by visiting a website, physical address, whatever works for you, and contact name, telephone number, or email address. So the biggest part is going to be the water quality data. So what must be reported? The system should let their consumers know that whatever contaminants are detected in their water during the previous year is stated in the CCR. So that includes the contaminant name, MCL, MCLD, highest level detected, the range, etc. And to get this information, a lot of systems could go to the drinking water viewer or their wholesale provider data, their operating reports, and their EPA UCMR5 data finder. And for the UCMR5 contaminants, systems are required to report that data in their CCR when the unregulated contaminants are detected and must report the average and range. So continuing with the water quality data, this includes all regulated contaminants as well, such as inorganic, organic, radiological, microbial contaminants, and DPPs. So for the DPPs, TTHM and HAA5 are regulated under the stage 2 rule. So systems must report the highest running average, the range, MCL and MCLG, and note any violations. Unless there is an exceedance of the MCL, then all sites that exceed that are must be listed. Next, for the lead and copper rule, they must be reported using the 90th percentile rule of the most recent round of sampling, and then the number of sampling sites exceeding the AL action level. So talking about a little bit more of the UCMR5 results, including the PFAS as well, they should also include those detections. So those unregulated contaminants must be included in a separate table with the average and range of results. So also please include any wholesale provider if you were purchasing water. And most of this information is already pulled in the CCR draft from Drinking Water Viewer, but systems are required to add and review their contaminants and making sure that they are accurate. Now, one of the last sections that systems would have to focus on is the disinfectant residual table. So that provides information of the type and level of disinfectants that are used to maintain water quality in their distribution center. So this includes the disinfectant used, the average level, the range of detected levels, and the unit of measure. So this data can also be obtained from their operational reports, such as their DLQORs or their SWMORs, depending on the system type. I've also added some additional guidance and information because there is a lot of information that CCRs need to include. So I provided with the first link of our website and drinking water viewer. And then if there's any other concerns, I've also attached the rule that states underneath each slide. Are there any questions?
Yeah. Questions.
I'll open up here. So the first question was an error message, an incomplete CCR when pointed from the drinking water reviewer. And the question was, has the issue been resolved? And our data person, Ryland Fields, but it should have been resolved. Yeah. But if you have any issues, please let us know. Next question. We have an interconnect, which is not in use with another city. Should we include the lab analysis results of the city into our own CCR?
It's an emergency connection.
They did not specify, so I may be just.
I'd say if it's an emergency connection and it was not opened during the year that they're reporting for, they do not need to include the provider data.
Okay. Nadia, I think you got that question. Okay, let's see here. Do you have a CCR template that meets the new ADA guidelines for digital accessibility?
These are created in Word, and you will be able to accessibilize them as needed for your specific requirements for your system.
Okay. If y'all online didn't hear that, they are available in Word, and so you can accessibilize them on your app.
We're making up new words.
Yes, I've gotten with that word. Accessibilize works for me. Will these slides be available on the website for reference? Yes. Lead health language was changed this year on the TCEQ CCR template from previous year. Is this a mandatory change for this year?
Yes. Yes. So whatever comes up on their CCR is mandatory. I believe that the rule was updated, so you could go ahead and find it through that as well.
Sharon has, can you provide the URL for the source water assessment? Sharon, I'll drop that in the chat here in a second, and we will have the slides available hopefully this afternoon, if not this afternoon, tomorrow on our webpage. And then let's see, is there a violation on the CCR template? And if it has been resolved, who would I contact?
So when you download your CCR, the violation should pop up. If it was resolved, it
still needs to be reported.
Yeah, it still needs to be reported. If you want to talk about violations, I would probably just talk to, I think,
well, if they got questions about things that are on the CCR, contact Danny or Justice Hafner or Hannah Waters or myself, Stephen. You can best is the CCR, PWS CCR mailbox.
Yes, I provided that PWS email on the slide towards the end. So if there's any questions that we didn't answer, is a little bit too confusing, or if you have questions down the road, please email that address so we can go ahead and look into that a little bit more and provide you with a better answer.
Yeah, we are, just to reiterate, we are working on some updates as we're getting feedback from you all. We're working with our contractor on making some updates to how it appears when it's initially generated. And so if you're waiting to kind of get the final product, we're expecting to do kind of a final re-release in May. And so that should be kind of mid-May. So we're working with them on making those updates, and as we go, we are also updating our website as we go. This is a new product for us as well, and so we're working through kind of kinks and things that we're finding in it that we hadn't identified initially. And so we're working to get those things corrected as well. If there is a question about the CCR form, use what you did last year. Like everything that you did last year was correct, presumably. If you didn't get a violation from us, everything was correct. And so that language, you can use that language. If there's a question about, how things are organized, you can reorganize it however you want to. And, if you want to use what you did last year with updated information, that's just fine with us. You do not have to use this template.
Can you explain, so if somebody decides to do their CCR based off of the current one, would they be in violation if they utilize the new templates that comes out later?
No, they need to update as best they can. Right. The reason that we're doing the update is that there's some compliance data that has not been released, and the way that the software generates the CCRs is it basically takes a snapshot. And so we're doing this update in May so that some of the compliance data that's still coming in is updated and would be included in the report. We have a lot of systems, like we have these super duper overachievers in this meeting. But we have a lot of systems that call us on, June 31st, which I know doesn't exist, to find out what they need to do. This for you all, I think you know mostly what you need to do, and you have all the information at your fingertips. There are others that are really very dependent on this, the generator. So we'll be doing that update in May.
So, any other questions? CCRs? No.
What data you said some data was missing? What was that data?
So it's the RADS analysis takes a long time to complete. So that data is delayed and getting reported to us, and we want to make sure that y'all can include that.
But if you don't have it, you can't report it. So you're not in violation.
So you're not in violation. So, but the whole intent of this is an opportunity to communicate with your customers what's going on in your water system, right? And I know that you all might not see this as the latest and greatest, but we see this as a very important piece in the communication, and want to make sure that we're communicating, and you all, by virtue of being the ones that actually have to do it, are communicating as much information to your customers as possible, which is why we're trying to do that update. Thank you, Danielle. Good job.
Email is in the chat for PWSCCR, and I'll follow up here in a moment with the source water.
Yeah, go play around with that source water assessment tool too. That is a new tool that's out there. It's been out for a little while, but it's basically an update of the older assessments. It basically is a nicer view. So, but if you didn't have an assessment done back when they did it, I don't know, 20 years ago, you can create one for yourself there. And it actually generates the assessment report, which is a nice thing to have.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay. All right, we're gonna move along. Janelle has joined us again, and she's gonna talk about the new notices of violation and public notice webpage.
Yes.
And Janelle is sharing her screens.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and everyone online. I think I looked earlier and we had like 111 people online. So even though not many people wanted to drive through the rain or cloudiness,
Horrible Austin traffic.
or the horrible Austin traffic to join us, you joined us online, and I greatly appreciate that.
So we have been doing, we heard a little bit about making sure that the CCR is accessible. We are working very hard as a state agency to make all of our documents accessible. And then also the language, switching to more plain language on our public notices and then also on our notice of violation. So we have a new public notice webpage. The old one is still up and it is still available if you would like to use it. Until those documents and everything are pulled down, you can continue to use the old public notices that are available also. So huge thanks to Garrett, which was the past team leader for the Right to Know group. He set us up for success. And we have a new public notice page. We're still making some tweaks on it based on comments. But just to let you know, kind of in general, so it's called Consumer Notifications for Public Water Systems. And then we have some very general requirements. We try to group things, group like things together so that you don't have to have like the doom scrolling that you're just going down and down and down and down and have to do control find to find anything like on our last public notice page. We are working towards only having one certificate of delivery that will take care of all of the different public notices so that you don't have to go find that specific one. We found that was very confusing for our public water systems and for our staff to be like, okay, well, they use this other certificate of delivery, but it was for this. So it could be, what are we supposed to do? What are they supposed to do? So we're really trying to streamline that process to make it a little bit easier. And that our first attempt at the updated one is this TCEQ form. Let's see, it's TCEQ-20208. And I apologize for how huge my cursor, oh, my computer just died. It's okay, I love you.
Yeah, okay.
How was Corey?
Anyways, I'll keep on talking. So apparently my computer was really offended by the cursor comment. Anyways, so on that web page, you'll find multiple sections. So the main sections that you guys will be visiting are the treatment technique and the MCL violations, and we have drafted public notices specifically for the main ones. Yeah, if you'll scroll down just a little bit. Okay, so we have our most common ones like the nitrate, nitrite, arsenic, triomethanes, gross alpha, combined radium, uranium, haloacetic acids, fluoride, and chlorine dioxide. Those are our main, those are our top 10 MCL violations. So we have those templates ready for you guys. And then we made a generic template for the remaining ones. When you guys get your notices of violation, you'll have a link to your specific template that'll be on that page. We are no longer going to be just attaching the public, or let me rephrase this. In the future, we will no longer be attaching the required public notice to the notice of violation. We will have a link to the proper one because we want you guys to be able to have access to that in a Word document to be able to fill in your additional information instead of just handwriting on the public notices that is provided. It'll also have a QR code. So if you want to put it on your phone and then like send it somewhere else and send it over here, it'll be nice and accessible for that. Let's see here. The next section is the treatment technique violation. So I apologize. So we have a generic treatment technique template. And then you go in and you pick your specific language that is pertinent to your specific violation. If you'll scroll down just a little bit more. Then we have, again, a generic MNR template for you guys to be able to utilize. A little bit further. All right, so one of the big things that I wanted to point out today is the action level exceedances. So with the lead and copper rule revisions, EPA is requiring that public water systems submit the public notification for a lead action level exceedance within 24 hours. We've talked about this a lot of times. It was a part of the Safe Drinking Water Act. It's a requirement from Congress to EPA to us. So A lot of people are like, why do we have to do this? Well, Congress told us that we had to. So that's the why. And then also it's very good for us to be up and open and upfront with our customers, letting them know of potential contaminant or potential issues in their water system. So on this part, we have some information on the lead public education and the action level exceedance. You can do it in one fell swoop. Do the 2 requirements in one shot, if that's what you guys would like to do. So we have some templates available here for that. And then also we have the EPA email. So when you submit the information to your customers and then you submit the certificate of delivery to us at TCEQ, you also need to submit that certificate of delivery to EPA. If you forget, but please don't forget, we'll send it for you anyway, because EPA is doing quarterly checks. If water systems do not do their public notice and don't provide the certificate of delivery, EPA will be doing the notice on their webpage and potentially putting things out on Facebook and Instagram that a water system did not do the lead action level exceedance notification. So we work really, really closely with our water systems. We are in constant communication when they have their lead action level exceedances to make sure that they're able to meet the deadlines that EPA has required us to do. We also have additional lead consumer notification information and the lead service line inventory communication. Laura, I was not here during your part.
It went great.
It went great. Of course it went great. It's Laura. Did you talk about the updating your service line inventory at all?
Yeah, we talked about that the baseline template is coming soon.
Okay.
We talked about, that the compliance date for LCRI is on the way, and that to encourage people to, register if they don't already have an account, get in there, make updates, and we'd like to provide that baseline as soon as possible.
Okay, perfect. So just a reminder that each year you guys are required to do public notification for what I call the GRLAROOs, the galvanized requirement replacement, the lead service lines, and the unknowns. So that's GRLAROOs. I'm going to say it. It's going to catch on one day. I'm literally the only person in the United States saying this, but I say it all the time, even at our national meetings, and everyone's like, oh, gosh, So anyways, how we decide if you have a GRLAROO is by your inventory. So we will be asking you, where is your documentation that you let your customers know that they have a GRLAROO on a yearly basis? So how do you not have to do that? You don't have to do that if you update your inventory and you no longer have any GRLAROOs. So make sure you work with Laura's group and her staff on updating your inventory so you don't have to do any more notifications if you have identified your unknowns or you no longer have lead or no longer have galvanized requirement replacement. Otherwise, you're going to have to do the notifications every year. Okay. And we have those templates right there. And then we have the lead treatment technique violations. And then further down, we have our boil water notices. So these are new and updated templates. And hopefully it'll allow you guys to add in some additional information and have in a little bit more of a user-friendly format of the public notice itself. Okay. I cannot talk to you about the notice of violation letter updates because my computer died with my template that I was going to show you, but I'm going to tell you about it. There's just nothing to look at. So the new notice of violation templates will be going in effect in the near future, which could be a month, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. It depends on what we define as near. This is just kind of a preemptive strike just to let you know that these things are coming. My plan is to put an example of one on our webpage with a little bit of additional information about like what each section is. So the first section really talks about like what the violation is. It's very generic language that we require. It has the exact citations, why you guys had the violation. The second section is how do we fix it? Like what are we supposed to do to fix this? And when are we supposed to turn stuff in? And then the next section talks about our FMT assistance. We have free assistance available. Free to you, costs us money, but we're happy to spend it to help you guys. And then we have some legalese words in there. And then on each notice of violation letter, we will have the specific phone number to get into what I call pods. They're called actually skill sets. It's our phone groups. So the lead and copper rule has their own phone number and a phone group that they have people on there answering questions all the time. Our FMT group has a phone group, and they are ready to answer CCR, inventory. We have all these groups, and on that notice of violation letter, it will have those specific phone numbers so that when you call us, you don't have to go through the menu. You can just go straight to that specific program area, and they'll be able to address your questions right then. So you don't have to call the front desk and be like, hey, I need to talk to Laura because she signed my notice of violation letter. Nope, make sure you go to the phone number that is available on the letter. And I think we've updated some of our existing templates for the notice violations to have those letters, but with the new one, it'll be at the top and the bottom of the page so that you can make sure that you're able to find it. It'll also have the email of the proxy boxes. Some people don't like to talk on the phone. I don't know what's wrong with those people. I love talking in any format. On the phone, chatting, in person, whatever. I'm happy to talk. But some people don't like to. We'll have the email address available that you can email back and forth with the program area and work with them. Yes.
I would also like to say, just if you want to talk to us, you can also email us and say, please call me.
Yes. Yeah. And then if you want to say, I'm available during these times, as long as it's not after business hours, or if I'm throwing a party for how amazing the staff are, we'll call you back during that time frame. Okay. Any random questions? Again, we are working through these. There are, I think, 75 different violation letters that we have, and we're having to redo the coding to get all of the information out of CIDWIS into those. And so it's taking, I thought this was going to be easy, but of course I was 100% overexcited about the process. And it's taken us a while to get all the documentation and all the fields matched up. So staff are working extremely hard. Jackie probably will never be my friend ever again after this process, but I still love you. Bear with us. We're going to get all this information out. And then when we're going to be taking our old public notice page down, we'll make sure that we send an email out to the DWAWG group, and we'll probably have it rerouted to the new page so that we can make sure that everyone's getting the information they need. Yes.
So, are you going to translate it into another foreign language other than Spanish? Because there are communities, especially some rural communities, where like Vietnamese.
Yes. Okay. We are planning on doing all of our templates into Spanish, and then on our boil water notices in Vietnamese, and potentially in additional languages as we are able to get somebody that can translate in the agency to translate for us.
Okay.
So that's the plan. It's a little slow right now, but that's the goal. And then we can talk about a little bit later some resources that we can make available to you guys.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Beyond Vietnamese, is there a specific language that you're saying you need?
I've heard Vietnamese, but I've lost that brain cell.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. Any questions? I went way longer than I thought I was, which is normal.
No questions, Elmer?
No questions. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Last but not least, we're going to show the new map feature and drinking water viewer. And I believe we have Rylan and Jackie joining us for that online. Well, Jackie's here, but
Rylan's going on.
Rylan's online.
For support.
Hello. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So I'm just going to do a search. So the new mapping feature is available through the facilities. And you can see right here on the right, is the first link to a map. It's only going to be for facilities that we have locational data for. But if we click on that, it should just take us straight to Google Maps. If we drill down into the facility more, you'll see up at the top, or up at this section here, is another link to the SWOT viewer. So if you lose that, you can find it here. And then also down here under the locational data, next to the lat long, you will also see another link for Google Maps available there. Pretty short and simple. Some other stuff that we've actually gotten done recently is that we're no longer screaming the TCEQ logo at you, which is kind of useful. Yeah. Any questions?
Any questions in the room? No questions online.
Are there other questions about the viewer?
Yeah, any questions? Oh, we do have one online now. Thank you. Is there a concern that this could compromise the security of a water system since it's public info? That was gone. But it is publicly available info. The treatment plants don't have the GPS coordinates on there. The sources do. So that's going to be your wells and surface water intakes, and then the entry points.
So actually, the treatment plants do have coordinates.
Okay, I was wrong. Treatment.
The drinking water viewer doesn't allow us to not show that, and EPA requires us to put it in our back of the database that feeds drinking water viewer. So it's either we show it for all or we show it for none.
Okay.
Ultimately.
Gotcha. If you didn't catch that, they're all online based on EPA requirements in our data system.
That's really the only difference as far as like what we're showing more of than what we used to show on Drinking Water Watch.
Okay. Question. Okay, let's see. If GPS coordinates are not correct, what team do we reach out to?
WSN, I'll put it in the chat.
Yes.
30 people.
On the spot, email us in the chat, pwsnven@tcq.texas.gov. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, so on when I go look at my water system on Drinking Water Viewer in the sales tube, so who purchases water from us, there seems to be a lot of, let's say, erroneous information there. There's like 7-Eleven is listed, grocery stores, restaurants. This was probably just in the last couple of weeks that I've noticed that this change has been made. So just that there's.
You could definitely send us.
Yeah, definitely send us that. If you see that, take a screenshot of it and send it to us.
Yeah.
That sounds very odd. So we would definitely want to hear about that and figure out what's going on there.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that.
You know, when we first adopted Drinking Water Watch, we had all of these same kind of questions, and some of you have been around for a while and maybe remember that, but it was painful. And we're going through the same kind of growing pains with this. This is a new product for us, and we think it's a better product because you can see more information and you can actually get your information out of it. But there are some growing pains that are associated with it. And so it's when you see stuff, send it to us and we will raise it with our contractor and work to get those things fixed as quickly as we can.
Thank you, Stephen. And Jackie has also clarified, yes, for coordinate corrections and other public water system inventory updates, it's going to be that same email, PWS and
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Foibles? Okay, that's it for our agenda. So next up, our next meeting is going to be July 14th of 26. Yep, got that on there, right? The registration link for that meeting will be posted hopefully sometime this week. And we will be sending an email about that as well. A recording of this meeting will be available hopefully within a week. Once we finish doing the transcription services on YouTube, all the materials shown at the meeting today will be available online once we have made sure they are accessible. And we'll put those up there. So you can find those on the TCEQ Drinking Water Advisory Work Group webpage. With that, I will go ahead and close out the meeting. Thanks everyone for attending. I appreciate all the information, and we'll see you next time.
Good job.
That's fine.
Good job, very well.